An honorable mention would be the Mario Barrios Ryan Garcia fight. I was actually giving Mario Barrios a big chance to win this fight because I thought he was technically better than Ryan Garcia. He had more experience, he fought the better guys. He was the bigger guy. He gave Gervonta Davis a really tough fight. He beat Jordanis Ugas and also gave Keith Thurman a really, really hard fight. So leading up to the fight, I was like, maybe Barrios is underrated because also the fans were saying that, he was the weakest champion in the welterweight division. But when it came to fight night, Mario Barrios became a punching bag for Ryan Garcia. He was just there to be hit. I mean, you can blame his coach, Joe Goosen. He trained Ryan Garcia before. He was very familiar with Ryan Garcia's style, the way he fights. Another honorable mention would be the Lomachenko-Teofimo fight. Lomachenko is the kind of fighter that you least expect to have a bad game plan, given how technical he is and how he comes on strong in the later rounds and how he takes over the fights after downloading the data. The cracks appeared that Loma might lose this fight in the Luke Campbell fight because Luke Campbell was able to win the early rounds against Lomachenko. It was actually a very close fight, then the judges had it. And leading up to the fight, a lot of fans were picking Lomachenko to win the fight. But when it came to fight night, Teofimo Lopez knew that Lomachenko would give away the early rounds. And he took advantage of that by, dictating the pace of the fight, by standing off with Lomachenko, boxing with Lomachenko, and, go into his body, forcing Lomachenko to respect his power. And I think Teo was too big for Lomachenko. And once Lomachenko felt Teo's power, I think his game plan became just to wait until Teo gets tired in the later rounds and take over the fight that way. But it was too little too late, and Lomachenko lost the fight. Obviously, Boots Ennis is one of the best fighters in boxing today, offensively, with the speed and the power. I would say his style, he's like a come forward boxer puncher. I wouldn't say he's a pressure fighter. And one of the traits of pressure fighters or come forward fighters is cutting off the ring. And Boots Ennis could not do that against Karen Chukajan in their first fight. Before their first fight, Karen Chukajan was a random guy, who was supposed to get knocked out by Boots Ennis. Instead, what happened was Karen Chukajan moving for 12 rounds and Boots not being able to cut off the ring. He couldn't even land like so many clean punches on Karen Chukajan. It was very, very hard, very frustrating fight for Jerome Boots Ennis. Before we move on, I really rate Karen Chukajan. He has like beautiful footwork. His footwork is very, very underrated. I think he's very good defensively. He's one of my favorite fighters in the welterweight division. So in the second fight, after a while, Karen Chukajan became mandatory for Boots Ennis' IBF title again. And Boots was not happy about the rematch. He was expecting Karen to move around, again and maybe make it very difficult for Boots to do something with him. And all of us were expecting Boots to stop Karen Chukajan in their second fight. But no, what happened was Boots didn't make any improvements on his footwork. He was not able to cut off the ring again. Karen Chukajan this time came up with a very, very good game plan. He was more offensive this time and using the inability of Boots to cut off the ring against him by utilizing lateral movement and let Boots come in, get closer and throw lead left hooks, okay? And also turn Boots after that. He was able to catch Boots off guard a lot of times. He actually rocked Boots multiple times in the fight. I think this was the hardest fight for Boots Ennis so far. I actually scored the fight for Karen Chukajan. I thought he won the fight. Outside the knockdown and, the sustained pressure from Boots Ennis, his game plan was exactly the same. No changes from the first fight and zero improvements on the footwork. Moving forward, I think Boots will have a lot of issues with boxers who can move. We'll see how well he does at 154. I picked Canelo Alvarez to win this fight against Terence Crawford because I thought Terence Crawford wouldn't be able to handle Canelo's power. But I was completely wrong, obviously. Terence Crawford surprised a lot of fans, including me. In the fight, I thought Canelo was doing really well in the early rounds. He was having success. He was pressuring. He was having success with his lead right hand. Canelo is very, very explosive. So, every time he throws the lead right hand, you don't expect it coming. So I think maybe that's why he was able to catch Crawford a couple of times. They were not that clean. I don't think he rocked Crawford or anything, and Crawford was able to cover well. I actually gave him the first 3 rounds in the fight, but for some reason, in the middle rounds, Canelo stopped doing that, like leading with the right hand. That's what you're supposed to do against a southpaw, and I don't know what Canelo was thinking or what his corner were thinking. Canelo started, resorting back to his old version, old Canelo, where he loads up with power shots, especially with the lead left hook to the body. And Terence Crawford, being the superior counterpuncher, knew that Canelo was gonna do that, so he started capitalizing on that opportunity by just counterpunching Canelo. So Canelo would load up on the lead left hook to the body and get stuck on the front foot because it takes time to get back to your normal stance after throwing a punch like that. And Terence Crawford was there to counterpunch with combinations sometimes. His game plan was very simple and very effective, using lateral traps and letting Canelo lead off and then countering. And after Canelo got tired a little bit in the later rounds, Crawford was able to increase the volume of the counterpunches and win the fight that way. The first time MJ Akhmadaliev and Naoya Inoue's names were mentioned together was in 2023 after Naoya Inoue moved up to 122 and knocked out the unified champion Stephen Fulton. The other unified champion in the division was Murodjon Akhmadaliev, MJ, who was supposed to fight Inoue after he defends his unified titles against his mandatory Marlon Tapales. Of course, MJ lost to Marlon Tapales in a very, very close fight. And Tapales went on to fight Inoue, and Inoue became the undisputed champion. So MJ lost his chance to fight Inoue. After that, he went on to have 3-fight winning streak. He stopped Kevin Gonzalez. And after that, he started calling out Inoue. Inoue stopped running all that stuff, started talking shit.
Inoue, Uzbek power coming, September 14, I'm ready.
MJ, do you have a message for Inoue?
Inoue, you ready? Let's go, champ. Let's go. Inoue, it's time. Set me on location. Don't be scared. USA, Japan, Inoue, anytime, doesn't matter. I need my bell. I'm ready. Let's go, champ.
Let's go, champ. Let's go.
So after talking all that stuff, calling out Inoue for months, when it came to fight night, MJ Akhmadaliev could not get out first gear. I think he was intimidated by Inoue's power. He started shelling up, and I think his game plan was just to shell up, tuck up in the high guard and try to walk down Inoue, who's a very, very good boxer, who's a very good counterpuncher. After the first 3 rounds, I was expecting MJ to do something, but he could not do anything. He was just there. He became a punching bag for Inoue. Inoue was counterpunching him. MJ was looking to land his lead hook, his power punch, and Inoue knew exactly that MJ was going to do that, so he was just counterpunching him, and also he was keeping his distance, stepping back, ducking under the hooks, and countering. After a while, Inoue started completely disrespecting MJ. He was loading with power punches, punishing MJ to the body, and MJ was just there, planted. You know what I'm saying? He couldn't do anything. And I don't know, because they had like more than a year to prepare for Inoue. You would expect MJ to do something, especially after talking that much shit for that long. By far, this is one of the worst game plans in the list today. Teofimo Lopez is one of the most gifted fighters in boxing athletically. And when you look at athletic fighters in boxing, I think they get away with so many mistakes, and it's just a matter of time before they get caught. That's exactly what happened to Roy Jones Jr., for example. He was very good, he was very fast, sharp, all that stuff. Technically, he was not good, right? He was making a lot of technical mistakes, but he was getting away with that because of his athleticism. And athleticism plays a big part in Teofimo's style, I would say. He's very hard to categorize because you can't say he's a boxer puncher or he's a puncher or a counter puncher, because the way he fights is very random, and he's very creative with his offense. You know, he throws very unusual punches. And Tio is very inconsistent with his performances. You don't know what Tio would show up, you know? Sometimes the impressive Tio shows up, who schools and beats down, fighters like Josh Taylor, who's a boxer, and Arnold Barboza, who's also a boxer. And sometimes the bad Tio shows up, who has problems with slicksters who can move, like Jermaine Ortiz and Sandro Martin. And probably that's why it was very hard for me to pick a winner in this fight, because I had no idea which Tio would show up against Shakur Stevenson. Leading up to the fight, Tio was very confident. He was talking a lot of shit, and also Shakur was very confident. I would say Shakur was more confident than Tio, because Shakur was saying the fight is going to be easy. I would school Tio. He can't touch me, all that stuff. Of course, I picked Shakur to win the fight, but I thought maybe Tio's unorthodox style would give him issues, and Tio's power also. I was expecting Shakur to move, especially looking at the way he fought in that Edwin De Los Santos fight. He's also very, very athletic, who's very fast, twitchy, who can punch. He doesn't fight like Tio, but a little bit like him. And I think Shakur knew that, fans were expecting him to run a little bit maybe, and he was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be flat-footed, box this guy's head off, counter him to death, and he can't do anything about it. And that's exactly what happened in the fight. Shakur was boxing beautifully. He was not moving at all. He was counter-punching Tio. Tio would load up with power punches and fall off balance, and Shakur was there to counter. And also, it didn't help that Tio's trainer, his dad, was just screaming at him instead of telling him something to do or tips, stuff like that.
1, 2, I know. Let's go. You're gonna hate yourself. Take this round, Joe. Take this round. Take it with him now. We're with him now. You see, he's starting to try to jump off that jab. Okay, right. Double it. You better than him. Fuck him up. You see how you in rhythm now? You starting to get in rhythm now? All right. Let's start bringing them 1, 2, right? And let's bring the banana low and high. All right.
And I don't think Tio was actually listening to his corner at all. He looked lost. He looked confused. I think he didn't know exactly what was going on in the fight or something. He was completely outclassed and completely outboxed, and Tio couldn't make any improvements, any adjustments at all. It was a very bad game plan. Shakur made Tio look amateur, and it looked like Tio and his team didn't come up with a game plan at all. They just came to do, whatever they wanted to do, but it didn't happen at all. It's not clear exactly how many rounds of sparring David Benavidez and Zurdo Ramirez had together, but I think it's maybe tens or hundreds of rounds. They were sparring ever since they were at 168. And leading up to the fight, I was picking Zurdo Ramirez to win the fight. I thought his improved footwork from the Bivol fight would give Benavidez some issues. When you look at the CBS fight and also the Dorticos fight, Zurdo Ramirez was turning them. He was taking angles after combos and turning them. And I thought he was going to do the same against Benavidez. Granted, those guys don't fight like Benavidez. They're not pressure fighters. All three of them are flat-footed. David Benavidez is flat. He doesn't move that much. You know, he's a come-forward pressure fighter. And I think a mover would give him issues, you know. And also, not to mention, Zurdo Ramirez was the bigger guy, right? So after, you know, considering all those factors, I was like, Zurdo can win this fight. So when it came to fight night, Zurdo Ramirez and his team had one of the worst game plans ever. Their game plan was to get closer to David Benavidez, who's the better fighter on the inside, with the faster hands, and try to beat him at his own game. And their plan backfired horribly. Benavidez destroyed Zurdo Ramirez in 4 rounds and became the unified cruiserweight champion. This is number 1 on the list because of how familiar Zurdo was with the Benavidez style. They have sparred a lot of rounds. Yeah, that's why this is number 1 on the list. This is volume 1 of the worst game plans in boxing. There will be more volumes. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. My goal is to get to 10 to 15 subscribers. I'll see you in the next video. Pugilistic Invasion, signing out.